You're 22. You'll bounce back. You live at home. You have no bills. There's nothing. You can
Six
easily
years
go.
later, if she gets bankrupt, she can wipe it off. It's fine.
Yeah.
Not
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
And
Her
there's just
worst case is like ending up like everyone else her age. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast. I am Ian Armour and I'm joined with Manny and Janelle. And this is our 28th podcast, and we're going to be going over some bits of advice that we would tell to our younger selves. Yeah, we covered some really good ones. A lot of them are just quick and easy, and definitely stuff that would have meant so much hearing back in the day. And so that's really one of the reasons we started this podcast, was to help out people that are striving to become investors or want to become better investors. So we thought this was a good episode, and we really like some of the advice coming out of it. So we really hope you guys enjoy that. So if you do have some time, if you could please give us a 5-star review. We're on all the major platforms. That really helps us get this message out. As I'm sure you're all aware, we are Halifax real estate investors. We've done a lot of work in Halifax. Now, Manny and I, we're branching out. We're doing stuff in the States. We've done burrs, we've done flips, we've done wholesales, we've done multifamily, where we've done, 60 units plus between us, and we've got a bunch more coming on the way. So we really hope you guys can get a lot from this, and we hope you enjoy this episode. All right, guys, so what do we have going on?
Not too much, man. I think I mentioned in our last episode we're working on some stuff in the States. We were supposed to close yesterday, but there's been some delays because of financing, so that's been extended another few weeks, probably a month. But yeah, we'll update you guys as that goes. And on the personal front, nothing else really going on. It's kind of just been my main focus the past few months. But other than that, what about you, Janelle? Anything new going on? I know you got the project down in Halifax you're working on.
Yep. Yeah, and actually, I listened to your episode this morning, Manny. That's awesome, you guys. That's fantastic, especially you mentioned you're getting some rents that were higher than expected and filling up those vacancies.
yeah.
So that's awesome. That's super great. But yeah, so for myself, I have that project going on. They're just working on the electrical right now. And then to be honest with you, I've kind of been working on our other project in Dartmouth. So just pushing that one along. I'm a lot more involved in this one, just at the apartment, just checking up on things, which is, I like that. That's been nice to be a little bit more hands-on and see what's going on, especially over there. There's always something interesting going on. But yeah, just a lot of the little things, just kind of catching what's going on, especially we actually had a new tenant move in. Let's call it our kind of a turned over unit. And so I've just been around. It was nice just to be there and check out the unit and be oh, this unit needs to be cleaned. We want it to be kind of spick and span for them. Have them move in and make sure that they're happy with everything. And then when they moved in, it's just a lot of the little things that come up that are just so much easier to deal with in person. So that's been really good. I've been enjoying that. But other than that, just kind of pushing along some of the mortgage stuff. I had a really good conversation with a client yesterday. They're doing a very similar project to me, the one that I'm doing on Waverly. And they were kind of new to the whole how we do things with trying to buy properties. So it was just really, really nice to walk them through that and just be and I'm doing the exact same project. This is how it goes. And then to have that added experience for them. So it's been really nice. I really like that. It's nice to bring those skills somewhere and then eventually,
Yeah, it's nice to have that balance, because as most people listening know, a lot of what we're doing now with the multifamily, the buy and holds, all that type of stuff, it's we really don't realize those gains for years and years and years down the road. I mean, every now and then it's okay, we get a nice little bump here, a refinance, there's some extra proceeds, but just in today's market and climate around interest rates and lending and all that stuff, it's not we're doing these perfect burrs, every other month and pulling out hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity. It's we might be able to pull out, some of the investor or most of the investor cash, and there might be a little bit of cash flow, and life's pretty good there. But it's again, we're doing this more so for the long term. But yeah, that's why it is nice to have some of that more active income from the mortgage brokeraging side of things. But yeah. And then I guess to follow up on Manny's point too, Yeah, the U.S. stuff is fun. We're definitely learning lots. It's interesting seeing like just their different type of lending as well. So it's like we you know, right as I'm getting dialed in on how you lend in Canada and you have your, you know, your A lenders, B lenders, private, all this stuff. Then you throw in, there's all these other scenarios down in the States, which is interesting to see how those work. So yeah, that's been fun. And then also, I guess to follow up with Janelle's point, yeah, going over at our building over in Dartmouth, yeah, it's been a ride. It's just so funny. I'm sure we've mentioned it before, but like how we have two 8-unit buildings that we're doing the same strategy with, but how wildly different they are just from, you know, the tenants that are there, the tenants that are gonna get moved in. You know, what strategies we worked on one building aren't necessarily working on the other. So the more of these that we can do, that's like there's just that many more lessons that come from them. So they're, yeah, super interesting. But
I feel like I
yeah,
could write a book on like
yeah,
the lessons learned over
already.
there.
And
Yeah.
that's it. And it's like we're only a few years in on like the multifamily side of things. It's like you talk to these guys that are girls that have been doing it for 30 years, and you're like, man, when they write books, it's like those are books that I want to read. I know Mike Burgess, he's a local. He just put a book out. That's one that I want to, I've got on my list to read, but it's just like, yeah, there's so many different things. And again, then just like lending climates, like, oh, interest rates are higher now, or oh, like vacancy rates are way lower now. It's like, though, that was a whole problem maybe, you know, 10 years ago. So it's, yeah, it's just so cyclical and so different, and you know, different areas and everything. So yeah, there's a lot to it. But yeah, but I guess that segues us into the episode at hand. And what we're going to do is we're each going to share 2 points on things that we would have told ourselves, or would have liked to have told ourselves, or liked to have heard when we were just first starting out. And so, yeah, we're going to dive right into that. And yeah, anyone that is starting out, know that this is advice that we all would have liked to have heard back in the day. So, Manny, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, sure. So the first one that I'm going to say, I've already mentioned it in the past, but I'm just going to dive into it a little bit deeper, and it's the networking. And I hope people hear this podcast and like, man, these guys talk about networking so much, because it is so important. So let's go back in time. 2019, I'm looking for my first, you know, small multi. I didn't know anything about real estate at that time. So what I did was I found myself, you know, an investor-focused realtor and an investor-focused broker, which was great. They helped me a lot. They allowed me to buy my first few small multis at that time. But my connection with other investors was pretty small. I didn't have, you know, a big list of friends on Facebook or Instagram that were doing big things. So if I could go back in time, I would have told myself to do the same things that I did, but at the same time, network a little bit more aggressively. Because at that time, I thought, oh, I just bought a duplex. Now I'm going to have to wait another year, save up some money, then I can go buy another one. But at that time, if I had known about the concept of raising capital or buying these big apartment buildings was not that hard, if you had the right team around you and you knew what to do, especially in 2019. Can you imagine? Like,
Yep.
everything that I know now, put it in 2019 me brain. Oh my God, who knows how many doors we'd have at this point? We could have been buying and buying, and like there's so many dudes in Ontario that I follow on Instagram that started this stuff right before like the boom, you know, like the mid 2000s, the teens, and they were smart. They bought a bunch of small multis or medium sized multis from like 2015 to like 2020, and then everything after that, they seem like absolute geniuses. And it's because they are. They took advantage of a good appreciating market. But anyways, to go back to my original point, if I knew about the ability to buy larger assets and raising capital and all these quote unquote advanced techniques at an earlier stage, I could have done a whole lot more. So I think anyone that's starting off, you don't have to go super slow and steady. You can be aggressive about it. You know, you just learn as much as you can, talk to as many people as you can. And then the only thing that's limiting you is your own time.
Yep. No, great point. Very great point. All right, let's go to Janelle.
Yeah, this one I'm like, I can think of so many things going through my head right now, what I tell myself. But I think the biggest one I'd say is just like as a general statement, starting earlier. Or like, and then that can mean like educating myself earlier or starting to buy houses earlier. Like, I'm just thinking back to when I bought my first house, like the concept of renovating that ensuite and renting it out and possibly like refinancing the house after. To me, like that would have blown my mind. I would have been like, what? Like, this is crazy. So had I just like even listened to a podcast or even like came across someone like you said, Manny, networking, even if I was just trying to put myself in circles of people who were like in the business sort of industry, like the entrepreneur side of things, real estate side of things, I think that would have helped a lot. Just getting exposed to that earlier. And like you said, just buying stuff earlier. And I know like people listening to this might think now like, oh, it's so hard to buy. It's so hard to buy. Like, given some market fluctuations, like yes, now is not the easiest climate to buy in. No matter what, like in a year, someone's gonna be like, I wish I bought the year before, and so on and so on. Like the next year and 10 years from now, someone's gonna look at a house like in the peninsula and be like, oh my god, I could have bought it only for 800,000. It's worth like 3 million now. So I would just tell myself to start earlier, and like I said, could mean educating myself earlier or buying earlier or whatever that might look like.
No, another great one. And it seems so simple right now, but again, starting off, yeah, you just get lost in so many things. And I guess that moves into my point is that I don't know, back in the day, I had so many people that I looked up to, and it's like, wow, these people are so wildly successful. Like, what are they doing? And I guess I spent too much time trying to figure out, like, okay, what is this like magical thing that I can do that's going to like propel me into this success? And it's actually so much simpler than that. It's literally just being consistent with it. It's like, it's not, oh, I just figured out how to do like a magic text blast to people that are behind on their mortgage or, something like, it's not like this one, special thing that's really going to set you up for success. It's literally just getting consistent with it. And again, I credit partnering up with Janelle to a lot of the success to where, I've been today or where we're at today. Cause you build momentum off those little wins, but it all starts with getting consistent with it. Cause like when it was just like in my head, this day I do a little bit of work here, or like try and knock on some doors or send out some letters or whatever it might be. But it wasn't really till it was Janelle and I meeting like weekly, like, okay, this week we're going to accomplish X, Y, and Z. So it's like we had that accountability to stay consistent and to keep moving with things like that. And again, like I had done some real estate deals before linked up with Janelle, but like to really see where the majority of my growth has been in the real estate side of things, it was those early days working with Janelle and literally saying, this is what we're going to do, and just going after it and getting after it. So I guess 2 points there is, one is being consistent, but I guess the second follow-up point is, build out something that will help you stay consistent. So like an accountability partner or a partner or whatever it might be. And it's like, and now some of the things that Janelle and I did together, now I'm bringing that same momentum or that same energy or those same strategies into like what I'm doing with Manny and the US side of things. So it's like, yeah, it's really built off those small wins by being consistent, and you stay consistent by being held accountable.
So much flattery. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna blush.
Yeah.
But I
But
was just thinking
well
like about,
deserved.
yeah, I was just thinking about what you're saying, and when you're saying that, I was like, I think it feels so much more real when you're saying your thoughts out to someone else versus like you can kind of sit at home all day and like thinking about real estate and that's churning through your mind. But if you're sitting down and even just having a conversation about it with someone, like that feels more real. It's like, ooh, like this is a thing. And you kind of stole my point there because I was just gonna say like stay consistent, but
Yeah. Well, gotcha. All right, Manny, your second point.
My second point, it's almost like a piggyback off Janelle's first point about starting early. Not only do I think you should start early, but I think you should start when you don't have that many responsibilities. So some people think you have to be established, have a lot of money before you can start buying real estate. But the thing is, when you're established and have some money, you might have responsibilities. You might have children. You might have a wife. You might have your own personal mortgage that you have to pay. If I could tell myself, or anybody knew that's starting right now and they still live at home with their parents, stay there as long as you can tolerate it. Funny story. I was talking to a coworker of mine at work about 2 weeks ago. She's 22 and she lives at home with her parents. She has no debt. She has about 20 grand saved up and she wants to buy a house. I'm like, her name's Emma. I'm like, Emma, go buy a duplex. Buy a duplex, you can house hack it. She's like, what if I don't want to live there? I'm like, stay at home. Do you mind staying at home? She's like, no, I like it here. I'm like, even better. You can pretend to house hack it, stay at home. Do that for another, as long as you can. She's 22. You know, she's like, she doesn't mind staying at home until she says she's like 27, 28. I'm like, and she works hard. So she works a lot of overtime. She's saving her money. I'm like, there's a way for you to just buy a duplex, a small multi a year for the next 5 years at home, no responsibilities, no children. I think she's single. You know, maybe if she has a boyfriend or a husband, stuff changes. If she has kids, you know, people's priorities change. But as long as you don't have anything to worry about except yourself and your financial health, then she is in a money spot. And I think she's on
Emma's
board.
just like living her best life. I'm like, good for you, Emma.
Yeah.
Oh, Emma's living a great life. I mean, that age, no debt, has some cash saved up, seems to be thinking a little bit bigger outside of the box. I can see a path for her where she's completely financially free before she's 30, doesn't have to work a day of nursing again if she doesn't want to. But yeah, that's what I would tell anybody that's young. And at the same time, I told her, if everything goes poorly on this first deal and you lose 20 grand, who cares? You're 22. You'll bounce back. You live at home. You have no bills. You know, there's nothing. You can just
6 years later, if she gets bankrupt, she can wipe it off. It's fine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not that
Yeah, her worst case is like ending up like everyone else her age.
Exactly. She'd only be 28 years old at that point, right? And she's still a nurse. She'll still be making good money. And like, she took a risk. It went poorly. There could have been a massive upside, or, you know, there's obviously risk in anything, right? So that's what I told her. I'm like, you are in a perfect spot to really succeed. And I think everybody that's in their early 20s, late teens, if you're working right away and you're saving some cash and you have no debt, just go for it. Go for it while you're young. And honestly, if you're older, go for it too, but there's more risk involved.
Yeah, especially if you have like a family and other people that
Yeah.
you're responsible for, and like literally putting food on the table and stuff. That's a really awesome point. Yeah, it's like, what do you have to lose? Like, you're gonna make a few mistakes along the way anyway. Like, why not start young?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, I have so many more points, like so many more tidbits. Like, I almost feel like I just want to like blast them out at the end or something.
Yeah, we can. We can just do like a free fire. Just let them fly. You don't have to explain them. Just say them. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking right now, like, I think as someone, what I wish I would have heard when I was younger is something along the lines of like, it's okay to be thinking this way. I know just the circle that I was in, like, it was very different to be, you know, going out on your own, like starting a business, and between like family, friends, and school, I just didn't have a lot of people in my circle who thought that way. And like, to be honest with you, I even remember like in high school, like I was just always like just thinking differently. Like, just, I don't know, it didn't really seem to be along the same lines of like people that I went to school with. Just always wanting to like push for more, or kind of like dreaming about like, what do I want my life to look like? I really feel like it's going to be something exceptional. Like, I don't feel like it's going to be the regular getting a job, doing this and that. So I think I really wish someone had told me like, no, like, you really are on the same track, and don't let people tell you otherwise. Like, don't, kind of like blending into like point 2.5 here, but like just not taking no for an answer. Like, I think there's a lot of people who just either, like, maybe I didn't get a literal no in the sense, but I definitely got a kind of like, or I'd talk about an idea and someone would be like, yeah, like, well, whatever, or asking people questions and they're like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea, or like that's not going to really work. And then I'd turn around, like, I would do it, and it's like, well, wait, like, this does work. So I think that's what I would tell my younger self.
That's awesome. And Janelle, it's funny you say that. I remember maybe like 4 years ago, I was at a party and I told somebody I was going to start buying real estate. And they said that's cool, whatever. But then like years later, after the fact, they told me that they thought it was stupid. And now look where I am now, versus, I mean, this guy's doing fine. He has a wife, but financially speaking, I would say, and I think he would agree, I'm in a better situation than him and most, because I didn't care if people thought what I was doing was stupid, because I saw the vision. People don't see what we see in our own futures.
Yeah, and just to add on
Absolutely.
that, like I find I get more people asking me about real estate now, and like even like wanting to invest. Like over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten more people, and I don't know, maybe it's because like we finished. I think it's probably because we finished a couple projects, and they've seen other people get on board, and then just the consistency of it. So it's interesting, kind of having people like come around, and it's like interesting. Like I kind of got crickets at the start, which like I don't blame people. Like I would probably do the same
No.
thing back. So it's like interesting to see what that consistency does.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess I'll go my other point, and it's funny. This point is something I probably had heard a bunch of times when, starting out, listening to podcasts, books, all that stuff. But I think it would be something that I would want to yell from the mountaintops to my younger self. And it's that real estate is not overly complicated, but it is hard. So it's not like we're going out reinventing a wheel and like doing all these crazy wild things. It's like we're doing things that people have been doing for 100, 200, 300 years. I don't know exactly how long you've been able to burr, but for quite some time. And what we're doing, there's really not, not like crazy complicated, but it is hard. We've had some really tough phone calls between Janelle and I, investors, with
Yeah.
contractors, with loved ones and cared ones, and like we've had these wild swings and up, we've had these wild swings down, but at the end of the day, it's like if you have the stomach for it and you can push through those hard times, it's like the actual real estate side of things is really not wildly complicated to figure out. So it's not easy by any stretch, but it certainly can be figured out.
It's just a bunch of problem solving. That's all it is. Like it's not technical. You're not doing engineering drawings. Like you're not analyzing like technical data. You're not writing code. It's literally just dealing with people and solving problems. That's all it is.
Problem
But
solving
yeah, and just
And
to
and
go off your
consistency.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the same whether you're flipping a trailer out in Sackville, or if you're buying 50, 60, 70 units down in Cleveland, Ohio. It's like it's literally slightly different problems, but at the end of the day, it's just solving those problems.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just like speaking of like kind of going off that, like a little bit of a spinoff. Like I was dealing with this the other day, like just honestly like feeling overwhelmed. Like I still feel overwhelmed. I feel less overwhelmed, like less often than I would a couple years ago. But just like dealing with problems and just like feeling pretty shitty about it and like feeling down about it. And then it was just a good reminder. Like I was reminded, like honestly, like, there's people out there dealing with way, way, way worse problem. Like if you take a step back, it's not that bad. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, like when you're dealing with those problems, like they're more or less like all solvable. I would say so.
Absolutely.
Big time it is.
Yeah. So anything else, any other just fun points or anything else that we have that we would like to share?
Have a renovation budget. Try to stick to it.
Yeah.
Expect to go over it, but like have a set amount that you are okay to go over it. That's something I'd like to tell myself.
Yeah.
And it's going to stay the
on that
same as you get older. It won't change.
Yeah. On that note, yeah. So if it's your first project, you're feeling pretty stoked on, you got a flip or a burr or whatever it is, and it's your first time doing a renovation budget, and you're just like on Excel trying to price things out, take whatever price that you have put down and double it.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, double it,
Yeah.
maybe triple, maybe triple
Maybe
it.
triple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, until you've done a few of these things, like, yeah, you're always going to get that wrong. Now, I know with Janelle and I, and even on all my other flips, like I've gone over pretty much every budget I've ever created. But in these times, I've been fortunate that the sales price was also, I also worked a lot higher on the back end. So it actually paid off in that sense. But if you're on like some pretty tight after repair values or as complete values, and you don't have a big budget or big room in your budget, that can hurt.
Yeah. Man, I've got a couple here. Like, one, you can learn something from virtually every single person that you encounter, whether it's like a lead that goes cold, like, or if you're getting your taxes done, like, learn something from every single person you come across. Like, bug your accountant, ask them questions. If it's like a structural engineer that's doing something on your house, then it's like, ask them questions. Like, every single person, that's an opportunity to learn, trust your gut. Like, don't take things personally. I think like I do that a lot worse than maybe other people out there, but it's just like dealing with something the other day and it was just like water off my back. I'm just like, this is not a problem. That's a good one. Like, I was speaking to someone, Maggie, actually, my roommate, and she was talking about like a problem that she had. And again, in her head, it's huge. It's like, oh, this is so shitty. And I'm like, Maggie, like, this is not a problem. Like, this is a problem. Like, if someone scammed you out of like $1,000, $10,000, that's a problem. But like, don't spend your time and energy like worrying about that. Like, take that time and energy and put it to something useful.
It's a great tip.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good way to end things there. So yeah, I guess everyone, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back same time next week.